Good morning, folks. Good morning again. Welcome back to Karating. As you can see, it's another beautiful, beautiful day we have here with us. And we've had lots of discussions online in the last couple of days. Many folks have been asking me questions about construction, how to put together a house in the village, those who want to move, or those who live within Kenya but live in cities. And so in today's video, I'm going to focus on just a few nuggets, things that I've learned through the process regarding construction and what to prepare for. But before I do that, I really want to thank you so much for the overwhelming support that we have had in the last couple of days. Many folks have subscribed, many folks have watched our videos, and I hope you too watching us now will be able to click on that button and subscribe. And if you do not succeed in subscribing today, I know you will tomorrow. I'm just glad that you're here with us. So, as I always do, before I share my points, I want to highlight a few caveats to be aware of. Number one, I'm just going to share things that are very specific to my own experiences going through building projects or observing my friends build. I have no formal training on building and construction, so that means I accept no responsibility for what you do with that information. It's likely that some of the things I'm going to say might not be true to you, and that's okay. And I hope you also don't use this information to broadly stereotype construction everywhere in Kenya. Again, what I'm sharing is very specific to my experiences building in Karating. Now, that said, all the projects that we've accomplished, myself and my family, have been done remotely. We live in the US and we are building projects within the village. And the biggest factor in our successes has been my family. We have an incredibly tight family that has been beyond amazing. My brothers, my sisters, my parents, they've been in charge. So for the most part, we do things online and they implement everything happening on the ground. Now, I'm aware not everybody in the diaspora has that opportunity. But the biggest reason we've been successful is because our family members have just pulled in. In many cases, sometimes they even use their own resources to make things work. So that's one of the biggest secrets behind what we've been able to accomplish. Now, today I'm actually filming from my brother's house. We are working on the wainscoting project that you see right now. And I think this should be done in the next couple of days. And I'll show you what it looks like when it's all done. So here are about 10 things that I've learned in the last few years doing construction projects in the village. Number one, as everybody knows, it's really critical to do your homework. And when you're doing homework, to me, what's been critical is doing homework that is really purposed on about 5 things. So number one, doing homework to gain more clarity on what you really want. There's so many things that are good out there, and every single day as you watch videos, as you meet new people, you're going to see new things. But be thoughtful, be careful not to overdo it so that you don't even know what you want, or when you want to merge 1,000,001 ideas. So the focus of your homework first should be on clarifying what you really want. For instance, do you want a flat roof or you want the traditional pitched roof? And if you want either option, what does that mean? Also, throughout the project, be open to new ideas. In our house, for example, the structure that we currently live in looks very different than the original design because some new ideas were incorporated as we went along. So be okay with new ideas. Also, do your homework to figure out who you are going to work with. Next, also do your homework to get a general sense of how much things cost. Particularly for folks who live in diaspora, it's very difficult to really know how much things cost because the prices sometimes vary just by the mere fact that somebody knows that you are from the diaspora. So it's good to get a general sense of how much things cost, but also keep in mind that the costs are going to change, sometimes drastically over time. And also be sure to be organized in your homework. Personally, I have files and folders on my computer where I organize pretty much everything. And I've done this for the last 4 or 5 years. Now, point number 2, besides doing proper homework, I recommend that you want to be very clear on the purpose for which you are building. And when I say that, there's two things. One, sometimes we build homes that we are going to live in for a long time, probably for the rest of our lives. But other times we're building homes that may have some commercial value to them. So being clear on the purpose will really influence the design, the size, the amenities, and the degree to which you can be flexible with certain things. And let me explain. When it comes to design, when you're building a home that you're going to live in long term, that probably you're going to grow old in, you want to think about safety issues, particularly safety issues that impact older folks. If you're going to grow old, you want to make sure that your house is not unsafe for older folks. Also thinking about things such as where the master room will be. I've seen folks have master rooms on the ground floor, on the upper floor, or two master rooms in thinking about homes that they're going to live in long term. Now, if you're building a home that may be used for commercial purposes, that may be less of a factor. Now, purpose also influences the size of your home, the number of bedrooms. We have a lot of kids, we host a lot, so having sufficient space for hosting is a big deal. And that also plays into living room spaces. You're a person who has guests all the time and requires that, it might influence whether you have one or multiple living room spaces. Now, I also mentioned amenities. Things such as having a pool might be really useful if you're building a structure that may be used for Airbnb purposes. Now, for a personal home, a pool may be great, yes, but it comes with some safety issues for people who have toddlers like myself. And so an amenity like a pool, while good, may not be ideal for me in my personal home right now. Now, think about things such as outdoor entertainment spaces. As I mentioned earlier, we host a lot and we love spending time with folks. And so when building, one of the factors I really give a lot of attention is outdoor spaces for entertainment. Now, this may not be a big factor when it comes to commercial houses or buildings that are going to be used for things like Airbnb, where you need to maximize space indoors as opposed to be outdoors. And then, of course, I mentioned flexibility. When you're building a home that you're going to live in, I would recommend that you be less flexible in terms of personal taste. But when you're building a home that may be used for other purposes, it's okay to be flexible on certain things. Say something like having an open plan kitchen, or even cost-cutting measures that may lower the quality of what you're building. If it's a home you're going to live in, maybe less flexibility. But if it's something else, then you may have room for more flexibility. The third factor that I've also learned about going through this process is the issue of land. So under land, I'm going to mention about 4 things. Thing number 1, some of us have the privilege of building in ancestral land. And that's fantastic because often we don't have to pay for it. However, the one thing that I recommend is that if you're building on ancestral land, just make sure that your ownership of whatever piece you're going to build on is very clear, especially on paper. I have seen folks who agree verbally among siblings, and then the individual starts building his or her project, and then when they're done, then the siblings are like, oh, who told you to build right here? Because none of that was put on paper. So if you're using ancestral land, just make sure that your claim to ownership is documented in ways that are legally defensible. The other alternative for those who are building on non-ancestral land is to purchase land. And when you purchase land somewhere, there's also a few factors to think about. The first one is, where are you actually purchasing this land? Is it close to a place where you can monitor it? In our case, we've purchased land as well in some places, but we built in a land that is very close to my parents' home. So they can simply walk around there and check what's going on. And so that proximity to where my parents live mattered to us. The second thing to be careful with when it comes to purchased land is the issue of neighbors. You want to make sure that you have bought land in a place that is less likely to be prone to conflict. And some neighbors can be really hostile. So you want to be careful that you're buying land in a place that is less likely to experience conflict. The other thing to consider when you talk about land is the issue of the type of soil. Some types of soils are very difficult and very costly to build on. So watch out for that. And then the last thing under land is the issue of potential for flooding. I often recommend, as best as you can, buy land during rainy season. It's very easy to sort out all that mess. And then point number 4 is records. Just make sure that everything you do is on paper. Typically for me, I use WhatsApp a lot. And before I talk to somebody verbally, I chat with them, so I keep records of what we agree on. So that way, even when I'm not involved, somebody else can just look at my records and pick it up from there. I had a massive problem when my late brother, passed on a few years ago. He was the one in charge of my projects at home. And when he was tragically killed in a road accident, my tile person immediately jerked up the prices, the cost of labor, thinking that I didn't know what was being paid on the ground, because they thought there were no records. So I had to go back to our records from my late brother's phone to actually sort out that mess. So make sure that everything you do is documented somewhere. And then number 5, communication. On my part, what I've done, I maintain 2 different WhatsApp lines. So I have a WhatsApp line tied to my US number, but I also have a WhatsApp line tied to my Kenyan number. 99% of the time, I communicate to folks in Kenya using my Kenyan number, so they have no idea where I am. Sometimes, as soon as they know where you are, the conversation changes quite a bit. And then whenever I am purchasing something, before I buy something, I make sure I send at least 2 different people who don't know each other to go sort out what things cost on the ground. And as I mentioned earlier, when it comes to communication, make sure that everything is documented somewhere. So I usually just send screenshots because sometimes people forget. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you in the next. Thank you.